So my reading has now brought me to near the end of the book of Deuteronomy, and it's really a book of reflection and decision. How do we think, how do we believe, and then what do we do about what we believe? Probably the highlight of the book of Deuteronomy is the little section quite near the beginning, which is called the Shema, and it goes like this. It says, "Listen," or "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. So love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, soul, and strength." And that has become really the bedrock prayer of Hebrew life. They say it twice a day. It reinforces their theology that the Lord is one, He is one God, and He is the only God, and that our lives, really from head to toe and inside out, are to be lived toward God. Now the word Shema means listen, and it doesn't just mean hear as in pick up on the audio cues. It means respond to, believe, understand, receive. So it's a much deeper word than just hearing something. It's actually being shaped by it. And the principle is that the shape is love, love toward God and love towards neighbour. And then throughout Deuteronomy there's a lot of rehearsal about the laws and the consequences of breaking them and the blessings of keeping them, etc. And so this law has been given now to the second generation of the desert people of Israel. It's very near the end of their desert wandering, and Moses is just about to really finish the race that he's been running. And at the end there, he says, quite another famous passage, he says, "I set before you today life and death, blessing and curses. Choose today, Israel, whom you will serve." And then a few verses later, he basically prophesies and says, look, you're actually going to turn away from God, but the choices are yours. So this passage is very striking. It's very much a darkness and light moment of decision. But then when I was thinking about it, it's not just a decision that Israel has to make once, it's a decision that we all have to make probably every single day, multiple times. What are we going to choose? Are we going to choose life or death? Are we going to choose blessing or curses? Because many of the decisions in our lives have consequence attached to them. Choosing whether you're going to have tea or coffee is not really a big deal. But choosing how you will respond to somebody that's disappointed you, or how you will tackle a problem or a challenge, or overcome an obstacle, or resist a temptation or not resist a temptation. All of these moments are choices that echo from this moment in Deuteronomy. What will our choice bring us towards? Will it be life or death? Will it be blessing or curse? And so although Deuteronomy feels like a very ancient time, and indeed certainly it was historically, the spiritual principles that are involved are as fresh and as sharp as they've ever been. That every day holds really for us opportunities to choose, to honour God, to hear, to listen, to love and to respond, or to turn away like Israel unfortunately so often did and find our own lesser path, which normally leads us into the weeds. So lots to learn through these ancient books. This brings us to the end of the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. Then we move into the book of Joshua, into the Promised Land, and on to some of the adventures and victories and defeats that we meet in that circumstance. But the final moment of Deuteronomy is faithful, I think pretty worn out old Moses as he climbs up the hill and breathes his last, and there's this sort of grand send-off by Israel. And there's an interesting little moment I'd never noticed before where God says to Moses, "You will now go and rest, you will go and sleep with your ancestors." And I'd never really sensed that as being a biblical perspective. You know, I'd think it is Lord of the Rings or maybe Nordic Viking kind of way of thinking, where we go to be with our ancestors in the great halls. But here actually God says to Moses, you're going to come now and join your ancestors who have gone before you as you breathe your last. So a melancholy end to the book, but there's a new adventure awaiting with the leadership of Joshua, and the spiritual principles remain as strong today as they were back then. So some more food for thought. Till next time. Peace.